Hey boaters, we're back here at the Outboard Dad. Today we're going to get deeper into the 70 horsepower carburetors. We cleaned them all out in our last episode. We also flushed and repaired an O-ring seal on our primer for this Johnson Evinrude outboard motor. It's a 70 horsepower. Don't forget my used outboard motor buying guides for sale on Amazon right now for $20. Right now I'm still offering a free half-hour session over the phone, which is a $250 value, to help you with a motor you're looking to buy, or maybe a motor you're working on, or a boat that you're looking to purchase. Keep in mind the guide is made for a quick reference. It doesn't go deep into detail. There's plenty of videos I have, and if you're looking for something to go deeper into, please let me know in the comments what you'd like to see more of. The guide is to grab, take with you when you go out to look at that boat, so you don't miss something that could cost you thousands in future repairs. In the last video, we went ahead and finished up repairing and rebuilding these carburetors. Well, they're not technically fully rebuilt. There's no new parts in them. We just cleaned everything thoroughly and got it back together and adjusted all of our floats. We did put a new knob, if you will, control here that has a new O-ring in it. The other one was spitting out a little bit of fuel each time I rotated this. So we got the first carb on. We're going to get the other two carburetors on. We did get some new fuel lines on here as well. I have a new one on here we're going to connect. I figured I'd wait till last to hook that one up to make sure it's the right length. So we also have to do these connections for our primers. So they go in the top here and seal off. You could feel it kind of snap into place when it goes in there. So let's get the other carbs on, and then we'll fire this up and see how it runs. We're going to pump some fuel in it first, make sure nothing's dripping or leaking, and maybe it'll idle this time. What do you think? You saw it wasn't major filth. Sometimes you pull apart these carburetors and it's obvious there's filth in the bowls, and that's why it's not running properly. We also noticed that all of our adjustment screws, some of them were cranked all the way in, some of them were out. They were all messed up, so we set them at an average of 2.5 turns. Let's see how it runs, and then we're going to play with those if needed. So let's get these carbs on here. So we got some nice fuel lines here instead of those ones. They were a little bit broken. One or two of them, they were a little short, you know, they were kind of stretched into place. So now we got them hooked up properly. We're going to put some tie straps on all of them to make sure we're sealing off all of our fuel lines properly and not leaking or sucking any air anywhere. So it can be a little bit tricky to get these nuts in here. Sometimes you got to be pretty ambidextrous to get that in there. That's a fancy word. I don't normally use fancy words in the shop, but it does help sometimes to have someone hold on to it, but you get used to doing this kind of stuff with your fingers as you do more of it. Now, once again, we're not cranking down these bolts, these nuts crazy. We're just here to meet it up with the surface, and then we want to smush the gasket a little bit, but nothing crazy. We don't want to smush the gasket so it squeezes all the way out, and we don't want to warp things by over tightening them either. So you get a kind of a feels for it over time, what, you know, basically what tightness it needs to be. I'm sure there's a torque specification, but obviously we're not going to get a torque wrench on these bolts this way. I'm sure we could do a little crow's foot on that type of a torque wrench if we wanted to, but it's not that critical in this particular application. Sometimes it's easier to get the tie straps on before you put the next carburetor on, so you have some room to work with. If you've seen any of my videos before, I do like to tighten these with a pair of needle nose. Not sure if you can hear it. I'm going to try and put the microphone close to it. But I get a few more clicks out of it, rotating it that way. Squeezes down on that fuel line nice and tight around the connection. All right, so that's connected properly. Actually, I put the wrong carburetor on here. So you do have to pay attention to what you're doing, especially when you're talking and making a video at the same time. The center carburetor has the follower on it. So I'm going to have to cut that tie strap off and redo this one. This is what happens when you work on stuff, especially if you're, even if you're not talking at the same time. Sometimes you just accidentally do things like that. Not a big deal. You won't hold it against me, will you? So the center carburetor is the one that has the follower on it that we replaced. I'll show you that as well. And the linkage piece has to go between all three of them. If you remember, that wasn't completely connected. It may have been just because he was playing with it at that time and Didn't really ever get it to connect it the rest of the way. But we want to have everything set up the way it's supposed to, the way the manufacturer intended, so that we have the best chance of this running properly. Let's get that other carb. So this is the follower piece. If you remember, it was half the size because the top part cracks off on these. This was a fuel line that he had put on there that we went ahead and replaced with the standard fuel lines for motors like this. Probably would have been fine with that fuel line. Just something to make it all uniform and matching, and I think that clear fuel line is probably for like lawnmower application or something like that. Again, didn't seem to be a problem. It wasn't leaking or anything, so it may be okay to do that. Just like to make everything back to standard as much as possible. Get another tie strap in there. Did have to waste another tie strap, but and we'll finish tightening these up. Then we'll get that top carburetor on there. So second carburetor is on. I went ahead and popped my fuel line back on my little distribution header, or whatever we're calling this, fuel rail maybe. That's probably the more automotive technical term for it, right? So we'll tighten this up. So this is all connected properly. We have this hose on here, so this needs to be connected. So we'll cut this off here. Leaving a little bit of slack. I don't want to have it too tight. It was kind of stretched. The other fuel line was a little stretched in place. Again, I like the right fuel lines too because it's a nice tight fit. The tie strap really just kind of holds it in place. Less chance for leaks, and things run better. This is our primer. We pop that in place. Our gasket on here. Get the two nuts. So I'm going to show you here how it's a little tricky to get these nuts on here, give you a closer view. This is where it gets a little tricky. You can see the stud there where it just sticks out. I have to pull the carburetor out a little bit. I'm trying to do this with one hand. Get it in the location, then kind of twist it. I don't know how much of this you're going to be able to see. Just to get it started. There we go. So it is a little tricky to get inside there. So you can see how it's a little tight to get your fingers in there, and use your finger and forefinger and thumb. I guess this is the forefinger and thumb. This side's a little easier to access. This has the throttle plate, or the throttle linkage plate on it. So once you get it started, they go right on. And then what I've noticed is I have to, open the throttle a little bit here in order to get the wrench in place so that we can tighten it up. Primer tube on, and we put our fuel line on here. Nice cut to the right length. Get our tie strap on here, and we are ready for some fuel. What we'll do first is I'll go ahead and get my fuel tank, and we'll do an up close and personal and make sure that when we squeeze that squeeze ball, nothing's dripping anywhere. Now at this point, I haven't done anything as far as fuel pump goes. We're kind of assuming that that's okay. If it's not, then I would imagine my primer wouldn't have enough pressure on it to keep squirting fuel the way we were running it before. So what we'll go ahead and do is I'll hook up my fuel tank to this. We'll pump it up, make sure nothing's leaking. We'll make sure we got tie straps on everything. All my connections are on and tight. So let's get some fuel, see what happens. All right, let's pump it up. As it begins to rain pretty hard outside right now. So I can't hear too much, but I'll at least be able to watch. So we want to keep an eye out, make sure it's not overflowing, and make sure nothing is leaking. Looks pretty good. So the other thing I want to show you here, so if you notice I've taken a little piece of wire here and I kind of looped it around the throttle. If I take it off, the throttle will kind of work back a little bit because it has a spring up here that's connected to my timing. right? So that spring, typically the throttle linkage is connected, the cable is connected, and it holds it this way. If I hold it like this, now it's giving it a little throttle and a little bit of timing. So since I don't have that, I'm just taking this piece of wire, wrapping it around here, and this way it'll hold it in place while we do our test run. As soon as the rain stops, probably just a passing shower. You always want to take a little bit of time because I'm forgetful. Here I am showing you how I put this fancy little wire on so it doesn't over rev, and I didn't put this link in yet. So we got to make sure we put this link in, got to make sure it matches up properly so that all 3 carbs will throttle at the same time. I always save these extra fuel lines. Even if it's a piece that I cut off that was short, if it's still good, you never know when you need a short piece and you're not cutting it off a longer one. So it's good to save. As long as it's good, it's not brittle or cracked or anything like that. Okay, so now we can see, can't rotate it because I have my wire on there. Let me pull my wire off. And now we can see where this comes at the factory. There's a line right there, and that is lining up perfectly with our follower. So I also see that the idle or timing screw has been cranked all the way in, so we're going to back that out a little bit because I'm sure it wasn't cranked all the way in from the factory. And I don't have a manual for this, so we're going to kind of wing it. Probably look up on YouTube, see if someone else has done the timing plus throttle and these mixture screws. Sounds like the rain has kind of tapered off out there, so we're going to get ready to take this outside, fire it up, see what happens. So last time I ran this, if you remember, I said this was stripped. Well, it really wasn't stripped. The fitting on the end of my hose is metal and this one's plastic, and sometimes they just don't mate up that well. You know, they're just, I don't know, sometimes I think they do that purposely so you buy more stuff. Anyways, I found plastic ones, some repair kits that I have for hoses because I'm a tightwad and I don't buy new hoses all the time. I'm constantly fixing them, usually because animals chew through these in my neighborhood. So I was able to get that in there, fit in there really nice. Got my hose on there. Now I have an end. I can put my valve over here. So let's see how this works. Give it a little squirt of fuel with my primer. Don't see anything leaking. I feel like it has a timing adjustment issue. We definitely got the idling squared away by cleaning out the carburetors. So we're going to do some research. I'm probably going to buy a manual. I can't believe with all the manuals I have that I don't have a manual for this 70 horse Johnson. I have the V4s. I never really worked on the smaller motors. Sure, some of them here and there that I did maintenance items and everything for, or carb cleanings, but never had one that I kind of went through completely that was a 70. It's strange. I just haven't worked on that many of those. Anyways, we're going to get a manual, but I'm going to look at this timing a little bit too, see if I can figure out why it's missing like that. The other thing I forgot to mention to you is as I looked around, remember we had some coagulation on the side of the head. It's definitely leaking some water. That head has to come off. So that's what we're going to do. This is why I don't like to spend a lot of money on these motors first. It is pumping water. We didn't check the thermostat yet. Let's pull that head and check that thermostat next, because I don't want to go too crazy if there's corrosion inside this block and it's not repairable anyway. No sense in doing research and finding out how the timing works. So let's get into that next. So we did get it running for a little while. Let's see what those spark plugs look like. Make sure they all are firing. We'll go ahead and get this ignition switch out of the way for right now. Let's see what this looks like. So if you remember, we had this coagulation here, and I didn't see anything here, but as I look down below, I think it's running down the side, and obviously it was leaking down in there, which is why you always want to test these things as much as you can before you go spending all kinds of money on them. We had it running for a little while there, not an extreme amount of time. So we're going to have some wet plugs because, or I should say oily plugs, because I have double the oil in here. Not bad, looks similar. All look the same, so it looks like they're all firing. I'm going to cut some of these tie straps. We'll get that thermostat out first. I want to make sure we get everything out of the way, get this kind of terminal block holder for our wires out of the way, and then we'll start taking this head off. There she blows. That's our spring, because this is one of those thermostat slash poppet valve combinations. Looks like the rubber in here around this thermostat is a little, might be melted as well. It's stuck to the block. This sucker was cooked. Oh yeah, take a look inside here. You can see how that is cooked there. Let's get that out the rest of the way. So there's our thermostat. So I got poopiness in here. Let's take a look. Let me get a flashlight so you can see it a little better. So as we take a look inside there, we see all kinds of junk in there. So this got cooked, and I want to say crystallized, but I think this is fresh water. So there's definitely a bunch of crap inside there. Let's kind of clean this out and see what we get. You know what? Let's pull the head off, and then maybe we can knock it from the other side. Oh, if they break or not. Ooh, 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 ooh. All right. It's those bottom ones that concern me. Here I am saying bottom ones, and this one's fighting me already. Oh yeah, these are all gonna fight me. Tell you what, I'm gonna get my big impact out, and let's see if we can shock these a little bit. Okay, first bolt broke right off. Such a shame. So here's my thinking. You let me know what you think. I'm done. Now, you'd say, oh, so you're going to give up that easily? And I can't disagree with you. You could definitely, even if you broke the bolts, get this off of here, and I may continue to break the rest of the bolts off just to see what it looks like inside. But as far as the time it's going to take for me to, get the rest of this going, to me this is a parts motor. And that's kind of what I took it in as, knowing what I was getting when I took it in as trade. So at this point, I'm going to take the lower unit off. We'll see what that looks like. And I'm probably going to scrap the rest of this motor. I know I have a set of carbs that's clean and working, and a primer that's rebuilt and working. So I'll put those aside if someone needs those. But the rest of it, I'm probably not going to waste the time on. Maybe I'll take the electronics off just to save it. But timing wasn't really that good either, so I don't trust any of it. Motor was definitely overheated. So maybe we'll go a little bit deeper just to see if I can get this head off without too much trouble. But the time now I know I'm going to spend on this, I'm never going to make back on it. So please like, subscribe, send me any comments that you have. And it looks like 3 strikes were out on this 2-stroke. All the other two-strokes that you've seen me work on, we were able to get running, even if we broke bolts. Well, it was usually only 1 or 2 bolts, but everything else was good. Now, this one, I think it's just time to say goodbye. Let me know what your thoughts. Please like, subscribe, and we'll see you on the next project. Have a great day.